All right, good morning, afternoon. It's a beautiful Saturday here in lovely California. I thought today I'd talk about the journey of relationships. Um, I was inspired by a dream that I had a couple of nights ago or morning. It was Friday morning, early Friday morning. I woke to this bright light hitting me right here, center of my forehead, third eye, pineal gland, bright white light, real quick. And then it was, as I woke up to it, I saw 111. True story. So it was a vision. And, or message, what have you. I have to let that thing make its connection into the physical for more understanding. But for some reason, that's been on my mind. I was writing a book, and I've written part of a script for a movie on a relationship. I was inspired a few years ago. My father would talk a lot about his relationship with my mother. I had a nephew who was having some challenges in his marriage, and he'd call me a lot. So, during that time, I knew it was something that I wanted to, I was being inspired to move forward on. For a long, long, long time, God has placed in me a sacred mate, inside of me. And it's been prophesied and that sort of thing. So I've really had very few, for my age, few relationships, but my relationships have been long. So one was 9-10 years, and then immediately I got into another relationship, and it was short but went fast and hard, and we probably would have married, but I had other things that I wanted to do. Always wanted to go to Howard. I had a young baby, and so I was a single mama, and so I left and went off on the journey that I had dreamt about, for most of my life. And then there I had a long-term physical. We were lovers and friends for sure. It was the entire time I was there. It was a gentleman, a beautiful islander that I shared space with, and it was a very private relationship. I didn't. I made a choice not to have him involved, or my daughter involved in the relationship, because I knew it was, and I don't want to call it casual, but that it was, I don't even like calling it short term because it was special, but I knew that it did have an ending to it, and so it was my decision. She thought he was her friend, and he was beautiful to her, but she never saw the intimate side of us. She was young, between 2 and 9, I guess, or so. And then I was in love emotionally with an old-time friend, and that lasted several years, but there wasn't the physical connection. We lived on different sides of, we were long distance, and it was good stuff. It was good stuff. And so anyway, it's been just really, really a few gentlemen, but all very extremely special relationships. Nothing bad to say. You know, when women talk about women and men, when you hear men talk about women not being is the issues that the dude has. When you hear women who say, you know, no good men, it's your issue, you know. And for me, it's kind of like, you know, why haven't I gotten married, and why didn't I marry? I think the one, like I said, that was, you know, first likely to get married. I had other ambitions, and then honestly, my thing with that commitment, I believe that, you know, I had fears on my end, so and that was my issue, you know, that goes with abandonment. So I'm gonna always find a way to you know, keep it kind of there. I do this thing. I've done this thing since I was a young girl. Always had it in me to do. I've always done it, and that was to go and be alone. And it's part of my process, even up to this day. And when I was younger, I'd probably just kind of go off into a room or go play in the backyard, or, you know, that sort of thing. Or disconnect maybe from my friends and then go sit with my elder grandma, you know, and sit under her wisdom, because that was good too for me. I always looked at it like, you know, the way Jesus would go into the wilderness. You know, the alone time is very important. When I became 18, though, I could travel. My mama had a cabin in Tahoe, and I'd go up there a lot, you know, by myself, and or, you know, wherever, and I just get away. And there were times when I did it, and I knew that it was extremely intentional relative to change, big major change, you know, like when my daughter was being or conceived. During that time, I was actually on my way to Howard, I thought, and I could feel the change in the air, and I actually got pregnant, you know, during that time. But I felt the shift, I felt the change, and so I had to hold off Howard. I held off for about 1.5 years, and I was back at it. And she and I left, and she was 2 years old. So that's part of my thing. A friend once told me, you know, I don't know how you ever gonna get married. A guy friend, real close friend of mine. How you gonna ever get married doing that? And you know, I dated this guy too. He goes, the husband's not gonna let you just go off and be. My daddy used to have the same thing. I'd go off. One time I went off to go sit by water, body of water, the ocean, by myself. And I was out on this deck, and a gentleman came through. I thought he was talking on a phone, and he's excited, and the conversation was as if they had to get out of somewhere, and they left some friends behind. Do you see Joe? I didn't see Joe. Did Joe get out? Oh my God, you know, whatever that whole conversation. So that's what's kind of, I'm looking at it. And then I realized he doesn't have a phone, because he's going, there's Joe right there, there. And so I'm looking back to see where Joe is and doing that. Then I realized, oh man, he doesn't have a phone. And I have my father on the line as well. So he knows I'm out here on this water, poor baby, by myself. And I tell him, oh my God, this guy doesn't have a phone, Daddy. He has schizophrenia. Can you imagine what my daddy felt like? So he was fussing. Oh no, why you have to always go out there? And now I realize, because then I was laughing. Oh, he's gonna be going somewhere by yourself. But it was his peer. I was thankful I had him on the phone. So I let the guy pass me to go to the end of the deck. And once he passed me, but I kept thinking, oh my God, is he gonna push me in this water? Am I gonna be part of this story in his head? You know, please don't make me one of the characters. So I got away. And another time I was up in this cabin, for my mama's cabin, and she had it was a 2-level. And you know, by myself, I'd sleep downstairs. And sometimes not even in the bedroom. I just lay out in the couch and watch TV, you know, all night. And I had gone up to Reno during the day. And this is when I was drinking. I had margaritas and went till it was a happy hour down the road somewhere. Sat out. Just beautiful. Then sat out at the lake. And so I had been by myself all day. And I came back to the house and it was almost night. And once it got, that's why I had to get in there, because once it got dark around there, it was crazy. It was like, you know, scary. You couldn't see nothing. So I got in the house and I kept hearing this noise upstairs. And I never made it upstairs to check, just to make sure kind of things are cool. And I'm telling you, it was like somebody was walking. You know, we had this house for many years, so I hadn't heard this. And it was during the winter, I believe, but I didn't have snow, I don't think. I can't remember. So anyway, it got so crazy and so loud. I had to call the police. I had to call 911 because I was certain that somebody was up there. I kept looking out and you couldn't see anything looking out the window. So they had to come and they came upstairs and looked all upstairs. And I had I was dating my daughter's father then. So I called him and sat on the phone with him all night, even after they left, because now I'm like, oh my God, these police, they know that I'm here by myself now. It's just got crazy. So anyway, you know, I've had the moments, certainly going off and being by myself, but it's just a good time for me to meditate. It's always a time for me to get closer to God. A lot of times I'm fasting, you know, during that time. But you know, I think it's very healthy, and a lot of folks don't do it. They don't even know how to do it, you know. Because not only that, I'm the girl that'll go to the movies and, you know, go to the restaurant. When I was in DC, I'm gonna jump in a cab and go to the club. You know, if it's a good band somewhere, you know, I could do that. My daughter would be here in California for the summer, so I can, you know, do those things if I wanted to. And it's just my style. I have no problem with it. I really enjoy myself. I really enjoy myself, you know, and sitting by the water with a good book or, you know, whatever, I'm going to do that. But again, you know, that's part of relationships and relationship with self, you know. I think that's the first and foremost. That's the most important. Relationship with God. And because I tell you, you know, a lot of people say relationship with God, I really can't have a relationship with God if I don't have some sort of likings for myself. You know, it's like, that's me. And maybe in other instances, God comes in and needs to, and I'm sure He does, because there is no relationship with self. It's just a lot of pain and hurt. And God is a real supernatural, powerful force. He's energy, and He certainly can come in and captivate your heart and make you fall in love with all of you, because you then understand that he is with you, that sort of thing. Mine was just a little different because I've always been kind of, like I said, comfortable with myself, comfortable with my journey. Not perfect. I just said comfortable doing things my way. So I'm, 8 years old, and everybody's having a wonderful, amazing time with the Barbie dolls. I may, in that moment, say, okay, I'm done with the Barbie dolls. I'm now going to go talk to my 50-year-old grandmother or great aunt. I'm just going to sit in there and sit and talk to her, or, if she's gardening or something, I'm going to be in her space because now I want some of that. It's 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 just kind of who I've been. They call me Jill the Pill, and there's a reason for that. There is a reason. So, but I got a little twist. It takes a whole lot to deal with my little twist. Because if you don't, if you're really kind of needy, needing the need for codependency. That's what doesn't work well with me. That's exactly what I would say. That the dependency kind of thing, it'll always fall short because I'm not, what do they call it? I can't think of the word. I'm sorry. But it's going to be hard to figure. The twist is it's bad. I can't hardly figure her out, It's because it's like that. It's like that. And so that's kind of the hard part for me in terms of relationships with my parents. My mama and daddy, they just got me. And those were probably my closest relationships, my relationships who were most closest, not always accepting, not always completely understanding, but yes, understanding. I get her. My father just got me. He thought I was absolutely, completely beautiful. He was like, if I wasn't your daddy, I'd marry you. He loved me. I was probably a lot like my mama. People say the spirit of me. My spirit is a lot like my mama, and I see and I hear, so I'm sure it's true to some extent. So my mother, she and I battled for a long time, and that's why mothers and daughters are something special, boy, about us. But we'd always say, I spoke Chinese and she spoke English. And so it was a difficult journey. Plus, I had a mother who, she wanted us to be open. She had children. She wanted us to have conversations. We were able to express ourselves. It was never with her because I said so. The only time she'd say because I said so is if we were trying to go somewhere and she wasn't having that. It wasn't something she was comfortable with, and we're going to try to debate her on it. She's already made up her mind. That's when you might hear, because I said so, kind of thing. But she was a beautiful mother, and so she created these strong persons. She didn't squash that thing in us. That then, of course, we're children. We're gonna test limits, and my whole family was like that. The kids, we sat at the table, but not. It wasn't messy conversation. You see kids at the tables today with 20-year-olds, and what else could they be talking about? We were sitting at the table with wisdom, drinking coffee, little milk and sugar, and so real vanilla. Kids now, they drinking espresso. That we weren't doing that. It's like you're gonna sit at the table, have a drop of coffee, sugar and cream, and sit and have good conversation with, grown women and men. And that was a beautiful process, for us. We could sit there and be in the conversation. And if we were in a conversation, so say if it was a different scenario, maybe they were sitting at the table drinking and eating and that sort of thing, and they allowed you at the table. For the most part, when that was going on, you were in the back room. But some of the teenagers would kind of get around in that mist, and you got out of line, so you injected your ideas or whatever at a time when it's truly grown. You would get checked. So you knew it was double dutch. You knew you had learned. That's why they let you in, But you learned how to sit back and be quiet, So you weren't naive to it. They let you be around it and in it. But again, it was still not the messy gossip, kind of stuff. Because when it's getting that kind of thing, it's time to go. For the most part, our intimate conversations anyway were one-on-one. If a man was struggling with, his wife or auntie, or, uncle was there, auntie, and they'd come and maybe talk to some of the matriarchs and patriarchs, that kind of thing. It was very intimate conversation. It was one-on-one. It might be the couple or my nanny who was the matriarch one, and you're sitting with her, and if you walked into the room, you felt it. You knew that this is intimate time, and so you might, get what you got to get, say hi, and you felt it was time to keep moving. So I'm going to continue because I feel rushed with this. I'm going to talk a lot about it because it was really, big. Relationships was really big in my family, and in my being. I know relationships with... so anyway, I was talking about the understanding for me, my closest relationships. Then a couple of friends. I've always had a very intimate circle, lots of associations, but my circle is very tiny. I'm talking about those that get the information. And for a long time, and even still to this day, I still held it close to my chest, for the most part, because I'm extremely private, and just like maybe 3 women would get the moments. And then they also knew that there's some things Jill's just not gonna, you don't really ask her, she'll sit down and let's go. But I'm not gonna call her and say, now did you? And I'm not going to do that to them. I think there should be always boundaries with, a person's intimate space. And I don't see a lot of that today at all. Everybody's kind of... So, yeah. So it kind of makes it difficult. And I've actually met, people that most of these friends, of course, I've known for 50 years, but I've met some folks that I now know only for a few years. But it's divinely orchestrated. Our meeting, we both acknowledge, is extremely special. God ordained. It was an instant connection, and feels the same way. No different than the relationship I have with folks that I've known for like 50-something years. So they get that intimate side from me as well. And they get me. And I get them. So then the other side of it, you hear about... there's folks that have, multiple women or multiple men and all of that. And, I don't think there's any set rule to any of it. But I do believe that there has to be acceptance and agreement. And so everything needs to be clear. That's the bottom line. And when you're grown, you make things clear. So I've never had a relationship that I agreed to with when there was multiple women. But I do know that I was part of a relationship where there was multiple women, where you learn it later on. I think that thing works really well because I've seen it. When a man and a woman or women just really confident in themselves, and when that happens, everybody's clear. Everybody's clear. And I've seen it. Where so then women are friends. They're gonna be friends. There's not any messiness. I've seen them come over to, say, the mother's home. Everybody's there. I had it in my family. And everybody, even when there's separations and whatever, folks continue to come and be. So there's no big fallout, because there's no need to have a big fallout. Normally a fallout, in that situation is money, or something like that, or it gets that's so the relationship itself is it's open, and folks are clear that it's open, and sometimes women will say okay to an open relationship for a man, but only because that is his call and not her call. And there's times when that happens, that woman is not secure about his call, that then she will begin to attack the other women around him. She won't deal with him, but she'll be very nasty and calculating, and all of that with women. And so that creates a whole another, because it's all energy. It's all energy, and that can have some serious fallouts. So and a lot of times that woman is can often be the woman that's kind of on the side, and then that's how she operates. I worked for this boss that had these women like this, and before I knew it, he was running out the office, and these two women were on the phone, and it was crazy. And so it had come into his work environment, and we were all watching the craziness. It's just like, this is crazy. But that's, again, when folks ain't clear, when there's not the acceptance and the agreement. It has to be both. So I understand, and because I understand, I have decided to I accept what it is that's going on, and then I agree to be a part of it or not. That's what grown folks do, right? That's what grown folks do. But again, I've never, for our relationships in my family, and I come from a big, beautiful family. The men in my family were extremely, extremely beautiful. And they had a freedom about them. And I'm talking about, and I'm going to get into it because this is my father's family. They come out of Texas. Some brothers ran out of Texas, and they hit New Mexico, then they went into Oklahoma, then Arizona, then California. So they had their children once they became free. These brothers did. And so my, grandmother, great aunts, my father, and their children, and it's a whole, it's a free vibration, running freedom, entrepreneurs through Oklahoma, connecting with the natives, that sort of thing. So free and wild. And absolutely beautiful. Love, love, love. The grandfather would told them, don't you ever part. Don't let nothing come between you. Just like my father told me about God, my great grandfather told my grandmother and her sisters. He had all girls. They were called Cherry sisters. Don't you ever, ever, ever part. Don't you let husbands and children and nobody come in between you all. And so we were always like this little village that stayed together, living blocks around, blocks away from one another, next door. I actually, once we moved from California, we moved where my father moved to moved, and I'll just say that. I'm not comfortable saying where on the line yet, but we moved into court, cul-de-sac, but we call it the court. Then his grandmother and her sister and just everybody moved. So we lived in a court where we owned. It was 7 houses, and except for 2, we owned 4 of the houses. Our family did, and then even to this day, 2 of the families still live there in the court as well. And kids and folks have moved on away and everything. But anyway, the men were beautiful, and so were the women. The women were incredibly, incredibly beautiful, and freedom, 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 all throughout their spirit and their bones. And so, because we had this closeness, you come into the family and you wanted to stay. If the marriage broke or whatever, you still wanted to stay and be a part of that. So we got, if the marriage didn't work, there's the exes, there's all the children, because we stayed like this. Everybody stayed like this. And my mother, my mother was adopted into the family. She broke off, but she was really like Ruth to my nanny, my great aunt, my grandmother's big sister who lived next door. That was really like her Naomi. Daddy gone and about, but she stayed glued to the family, because they were extremely, extremely beautiful people. And so the men, like I said, it was one woman. It was, marriage was very important. It was what we saw, because the mamas, aunties, grandmothers were the high priestess of the home, and they took care of us. They took care of the children, and so it wasn't this multiple nothing. That was not the thing. Now, what you did when you left outside of that nucleus, you still, that's what can you what can you say? But you also knew that it wasn't allowed like that. And then, so that's the elders. That's the teachings of our elders. So I can't link up with the dude that's gonna put me in a spot with multiples and then me be okay. That I'm gonna understand that, and I'm gonna accept that's your thing, but I'm not gonna agree to it because it's not mine. And it doesn't take anything away from the man that does that, or the woman that does that, and it doesn't take anything away from me. So I often tell people, I know who I am, and as we get to know one another, and a lot of it is to help. I don't know where God is taking me, I really don't, but I think with that message alone, it'll help people understand. When you say, my mama's message to her children, to her grandchildren, that comes from a very ancient way of living, a lifestyle, is know thyself. That's what, know yourself. That's what I was talking about, the relationship with self. You got to know yourself. Can't nobody tell you, and you can't start being, don't try to be me. I'm not going, I can't try to be you. Know yourself. Know who you are. And that's the best relationship. That is so, the struggle is going to come when I'm not clear about what you got going, because I'm clear about me. I'm clear. I'm clear because I know who I am. I know who I am. And I was taught that from birth. My daughter has it tattooed on her body. That's how my mother, it was important for us to know ourselves, whether we caught it or not. I got it. So, I'm clear. And then